So, I've been sick the past week or so. Um, wasn't COVID. I took a COVID test and it said it was negative, so it's not COVID. I went to one of our urgent care clinics yesterday, or my mom took me. Um, and apparently I have a very bad sinus infection. And so they gave me antibiotics, so I'm taking those. Hopefully I'm going to be getting better because I'm supposed to start a new job hopefully next week. We'll see how that goes. I'm really hoping that pans out. Otherwise, I may actually have to make good on this pact that I made with Emu for, immortality and all that stuff. It's not set in stone yet. This is the trial period. We're gonna see how that goes. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. Dory and Broggy kind of get something happen to them in this chapter, and Emu also made me the offer, so I'm getting a trial run. We'll see what happens there. Okay, so One Piece, chapter 1150, Domi Reversi. Okay, so we start off with the Yamato cover page series, and here we have it that Yamato, Ulti, and Page 1, as her new retainers, essentially, have finally made their way to the Enma Shrine in the Hakumai region. Now, in the description, it says, pilgrimage complete. We haven't finished going all the way around Wano. We haven't seen who's in charge of the Hakumai region, who is most likely Kawamatsu, given what was said in the previous one, with, give this hat to Kawamatsu, and it looks like Ulti is currently holding the hat meant for Kawamatsu. And Ulti and Page 1 are wearing their cloaks that have the Kozuki symbol, the sun symbol on them. Or that symbol that we've seen multiple times that is representative of the sun. We're seeing that. Ulti still seems to be a bit bandaged up from Who's Who torturing her in Page 1, unfortunately. Or Ulti is still bandaged up, excuse me. I'm hoping this is not the end of the cover page series. We still haven't seen Ringo or the rest of Hakumai region, but we're seeing the Enma Shrine here, which is part of what was Yamato's journey, was to travel around Wano, and then it was Kinemon asked Yamato to take the shrine, or take the sword that belonged to Yasuie and take it to the Enma Shrine so it could be laid to rest. So Yamato has made good on that part of his promise. Maybe Kawamatsu's gonna show up and be like, hey, why are they here? Oh, they're your retainers. Okay, never mind then, we're good. Type of thing. Okay, back to the next chapter, essentially where we left off on the last one. So this is after Scopper has gone over the side of the tree. Chopper jumped after him, so we'll see what happens with that. Emu has taken over Gunko, and again, my brain gets a little fuzzy sometimes right now just for me not being 100%. So hopefully I catch as much as possible in this chapter, but we'll see. So we have a bunch of the giants have made their way to where Colin and Ilva and all of the children are. And the children still seem to be under the effect of the arrow because they're still walking, although I don't see the arrow in this picture. It could be behind them, I'm just not seeing it. And we're going to find out that the thorns are still in play here. The kids aren't completely free yet. But we have the giants running up to them. Thank God they're all right. The children, all of that. One of the giants actually the female giants actually kind of looks like Kuma's mom. Don't know if that's going to mean anything. Probably not. Just kind of looks like her. So we have several of the giants getting up to where the kids are, and Colin is just inconsolable at this point in time, which is perfectly understandable given what happened. He's like, Bar guy, my daddy was pushed over into the realm of the dead. And he's just like, he's like, Colin is distraught. Perfectly understandable. because Dad just fell over the side of the tree after being stabbed multiple times by arrows. And he doesn't know where his mom is. Perfectly understandable. And he's kidnapped. So they're like, what, Yasan fell? There's like, yeah, that mean lady did it, watch out. And they're like, Dad, Mama, because like some of the other kids, apparently some of their parents are right here. The female giant might actually be Ilva's mom, because we don't know exactly. And it's just like, one of the giants is looking over at, because we see in the background of the shot where we see the kids meeting the adults, we see Gunko in the background, like her kind of floating there with like the kind of the conqueror's hockey coming off of her, Imu-sama possessing her. They're like, she's floating. It's like, you must have been scared. Let's get you away quick. And one of the giants reaches down to try to touch the kids, to try to touch Colin, and he gets stabbed. Like we saw happen earlier when Saul tried to touch them. So the thorns are still in play. Summer's thorns are still in play. They haven't been removed. Summer's hasn't been taken out enough for those to become non-existent yet, for those to become null and void. So you're like, what was that? What happened? And they're like, the kids don't understand what happened because they were asleep when Saul tried to touch them. But the giant that tried to touch them, tried to touch Colin, is now like in pain on the ground because he tried to touch him and he's got like, he got stabbed by the thorns. Gunko looks over and she's like, this is mayhem, and just, well, Imu and Gunko's body just unleashes this huge blast of Conqueror's Haki that knocks out a bunch of the giants and the kids, and they just fall to the ground, collapsing, just passing out. And we just see this just huge wave of Conqueror's Haki is going. There's a lot of double-page spreads in this chapter. Next double-page spread, we cut down to where we see Dori and Baragi running, leading their group of the Giant Warrior Pirates towards where Gunko is, to where the children are, to try to protect them. And we cut to, and like, they probably are feeling like the ramifications, the, power of this hockey going off. And we also cut back to the Western Village where we see that Jarl is there along with a bunch of the other giants, and several of the giants are passing out. So that means that even like the waves of Conqueror's Haki that Imu and Gunko's body is giving off is going far enough that it's making it all the way back to the Western Village. And we cut around, we see Imu and Gunko's body summons up one of the, not quite the same thing as the Abyss Mark, but something very similar to it. Pops up, and out of it kind of looks like, comes like the barrels of guns is kind of what they look like. And it seems like it fires at some of the giants, and I think it's supposed to like knock them out. And then we get this great shot of well, it's still Gunko's body, but now it's got bat wings coming out of it. And it's got a trident. She's got a trident in one hand, and like the arrow tail that we saw that like Imu had back in the throne room when he stabbed Sabo with it. When they stabbed Sabo with it, seems to have now popped out of Gunko. And yes, we do see that her hair is longer. And I believe every time we get a close-up of Gunko's face, her eyes are the emu's eyes. And she's like, I shan't permit a rebellion. Is this all your dream demons amount to Quillingham? So Gunko, being possessed by Imu, is kind of like looking around at like what the dream creatures that Killingham created. And is not impressed with them. To be fair, demon possession, so yeah. And Gunko is kind of giving off Robin in her Fleur Demonio vibes right now. Which I was really hoping we get to see Robin go into Fleur Demonio and just cause a bunch of damage to Summers. That might have been like enough to cause damage to him. We'll see Summers a little bit later in this, in a little bit in this chapter, and he's not completely out of the game, but he's still in pain. Good job, Scopper. But yeah, Gunko Imu is kind of giving off Night on Bald Mountain vibes right now. I was sick, and sometimes when I'm sick, I like to just watch Fantasia. And that ends with Night on Bald Mountain into Ave Maria. So that's in my head right now. So, Keringham is like, not at all, my lord. There are still many nightmare fissures left open. So this is a reference to, I guess, the nightmare fissures are where the monsters are coming out of, where the MMAs are coming out of. But I'm assuming those just like open up and they can just keep crawling out. Now, whether or not that means as long as the person they're from is still asleep, or if it's just in general, as long as Keringham wants to keep the power going. We'll find out. These monsters were born from the nightmares of this island, and they are creatures made from dreams with no concept of death. I can revive them at any time. I just need to give the signal. And we see the Draugr and one of the Fenrir's coming out of this area, out of this like pit in the ground. We see what I'm assuming is supposed to be like a cockatrice or something like that off to the side that looks like it got beaten up. And we get, again, Emu's voice to Shepherd, or Summers. Shepherd those urchins. So I'm assuming double entendre there, because he's part of the Shepherd family. But is telling Summers to, get back to the orphans. Get back to the kids, the urchins. Are we into Kenzie and London now? Children's street urchins. And we see Nami, Usopp, Brooke, and Jinbei are here. As they're looking off to the side, and we hear Summers responding with, "At once, my lord." And he's like piecing himself back together, essentially. I'm assuming this is going to be kind of similar to as in Punk Hazard when Zoro defeated Monette, when he like sliced her, but because he didn't use Haki, it wasn't a permanent slice, but it's her just like getting all messed up because of the fact of like he didn't use Haki, but he couldn't have used Haki, and if he'd used Haki, I'd be dead, but he didn't, but I don't know what to do, that type of thing. So I'm assuming Summers is going to be in like a similar situation here after what happened with Scopper in the previous chapters, with hand sliced off, chest cut, and then upper part chopped off and everything, and then falling on his own thorns, which was just extra good. And the other Straw Hats are like, "He's still alive?" And Jinbei is like, "The one in the sky is the woman from earlier, right? She's barely recognizable." So they don't know what's going on, obviously. Now, the Straw Hats have been exposed to Conqueror's Haki many times. They've been exposed to Luffy's Conqueror's Haki. We saw this. Jinbei's probably been exposed to Conqueror's Haki more than any of the other Straw Hats, simply just because of being around Whitebeard at various points in time. I mean, if Jinbei had Conqueror's Haki, if that was ever revealed, I wouldn't be surprised by it, but I don't think he does, but he could. But so the Straw Hats have all been exposed to Conqueror's Haki at various points in time, mostly Luffy's, but, I believe Nami and Chopper and Brooke, I'm pretty sure were exposed to Big Mom's Conqueror's Haki. And then I think a lot of them were exposed to Kaido's Conqueror's Haki, either at some point in Wano or specifically during Onigashima, they would have been exposed to it. So they would have been exposed to those at various points in time. Zoro, I'm trying to remember if Zoro would have been exposed to like Doflamingo's Conqueror's Haki at any point in time while they were on Dressrosa, and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think Zoro ever really was interacted that much with Doflamingo while he was using any of his Conqueror's Haki. But the Straw Hats have been, they all have like a strong enough will on their own, even for the ones who haven't awakened Conqueror or haven't awakened Haki yet. I freaking hope that something gets fixed about that soon. Particularly if that's going to be one of the only ways that you can like injure the Gorosei and the Gods Knights, is like you have to have armament Haki of some kind to be able to do this, or like a certain level or something like that. Bring in Katakuri, he might be able to help with this mess. That'd be fun, just get Katakuri to show up again. What can I say? I like Katakuri. But the Straw Hats have been exposed to enough Conqueror's Hockey over the course of their journey that, like, they're not going to be really affected that much by, like, Gunko, Emu possessing Gunko and giving off this Conqueror's Hockey, because there's, like, not that far from it, the same way that the Giants weren't that far from it. The Giants and the kids, where they all passed out, and then the Giants at the Western Village were even further away, and several of them passed out, not Jarl, but several of the others did. And the Straw Hats don't seem like they've been affected by the Conqueror's Hockey blast that Emu inside of Gunko let off. So that's something. Robin says, Luffy, where are Luffy and the others now? And Nami's like, well, now Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji should be... Well, they're currently, like, in the... considering it's been several chapters since we've seen them, we're probably going to end up having to get a small flashback because, like, Luffy could sense it when Kizaru showed up at Egghead. I'm expecting it to be that Luffy is going to sense something is going on. Luffy, Loki are going to sense, Emu possessing Gunko and be like, oh, now that's an interesting bit of hockey there, type of a thing. That's an interesting power. And then, like, Luffy's going to want to go and fight the interesting power. And be like, oh no, I don't like that power. I'm going to go punch it. Something like that. And head off to go fight that. Hopefully that's what's going to happen. That might happen at the end of the next chapter. I don't know. We've cut away from Luffy for a while, so we're going to have to see what's going on. They have to have been gone for a good reason. Eating a giant dinosaur is not a good enough reason. Brooke is like, well, there was Hyrudine and his crew. This is the worst time they could have chosen to go to the realm of the dead. I think it's Usopp and Brooke are saying this. It's like, yeah, not the best time to be down there, but, Luffy's never been very good at, like, managing his timetables, about managing his own schedule. So now we cut to where we see Robin, and she has, popped up some of her arms, and she is using them to try to push off a bunch of the thorn vines that are around her that Summer's put around her to pin her in place. She's trying to use those, and, Jinbei's yelling at her, stop doing that. What are you doing, Robin? And she's like, I can't just sit here and do nothing. It's unbearable. And from Robin's perspective, children are still in danger, and she hates that the children are in danger. Nami hates that too. Pretty much all the Straw Hats hate it when children are in danger. And then it's also the library and the school are burning, which of course just brings up more horrible memories, because that's what we cut to as we see the library is burning in the background. Is burning in the next panel. And Robin is, she is pushing on these thorns enough that, I think one of them has, cut her face. And this is kind of bringing back memories of in Dressrosa when Robin had used, her Gigantomanos to, pick up a bunch of the sunflowers and, was trying to use them as, cover for her and Rebecca while Kyros was fighting against Diamante. And Diamante had all of those, shrapnel bits falling from the sky, and Robin was protecting Rebecca, and Robin, unfortunately, got lots of, got hit by a lot of them on her back, and now Robin is supposed to have, scars on her back from that. So Robin might be getting a few more scars, or a few more slight ones here and there from these thorns. So now we go over to Summers, who has managed to stand up, and he is, kind of piecing himself back together a little bit. His regeneration ability has kind of, kicked back into gear, but it doesn't seem to be going quite as smoothly or as quickly as it had been, as it was before. And Emu was talking to him in his head, and it's just it is imperative that we establish a suitable authority, one capable of striking a proper ransom for those adolescents. And Summers is it's just as you say, my lord. What do we do with a country that has no king? And Summers in his head is thinking, damn you, Gabon, that was painful. He's like, damn it, that still hurt. So one of the translations I saw was Summers finding it ridiculous that this country doesn't have a king. It's that's ridiculous. Why doesn't this country have a king? That's just stupid. Because, most of the Celestial Dragons probably do not know about Emu. The Gorosei know about him. at least a certain amount of the Gods Knights know about Emu. And they're like, well, of course there has to be a king, and that's Emu. They're the king of the world. Whether or not they know Emu's full gender, full identity is left up for debate. So we'll see what happens there. But now we cut back to where Gunko Emu is, and they are pretty much directly in the path of where the giant warrior pirates are coming through, with Dory and Broggy leading the charge. And he's like, Blue Ogre Dory, Red Ogre Broggy, I command thee to claim dominion of this island. Henceforth ye shall reign as the Kings of Elbaph. And Broggy just reaches out and grabs Emu. Just like, nope. Just like grabs him. And it's just like, you're one of those God's Knights. And he grabs him, which is just great. It's like, hey, you, all of this chaos is your fault. It's just like, Emu is very not happy with this. He's like, I have been grabbed like a bat out of the air. This is not something I agree with. I am being manhandled by a giant here. This is not good, but I'll use this to my advantage, is essentially what happens. And Broggy is like, Dory and the rest of you guys, run up ahead. You got it, Captain. Be careful, Broggy. So they're all headed that way, as like Dory is, or as Broggy is, excuse me, I always get Dory and Broggy mixed up. I'm sorry. Broggy is holding on to Emu, Bat Emu Gunko, and he's just like, I'm taking those kids back. How many of you are there? Valid question. And Gunko Emu just pops up her hand and pops up some type of, I don't know, weird grimoire text out of thin air. A little portal thing opens up, and it's like, listen, Broggy, go and, excuse me. Listen, Broggy, go and meet with Mountainbeard Jarl. You shall take his head and raise it up high. And the book is opening, and it's like, just, power, smoke, whatever is pouring out of this book. And it's just like, then proclaim to the people of this island, we are the Kings of Elbaph. And we get like the close-up of like Gunko Emu's face. And the face isn't blacked out anymore, but it's still like Emu's eyes. And the book opens even more, and just like more smoke and devilish power and whatever, like shadows are like erupting from it. I'm going to get to Black Clover references in a little bit, or very shortly. But yeah, this is giving off major grimoire vibes from like Black Clover, or from like lots of other stories that deal with like grimoires, or like Book of Shadows if you're into Charmed or something like that. And Broggy shouts, and it's just like, that's crazy talk. This is our homeland. You don't call the shots here. And well-timed giant rifle pops out of the book, along with a sword that Emu Gunko grabs, or a dagger, and stabs that into Dory's hand, which I'm assuming makes him let go. Or Broggy's hand, which I'm assuming makes him let go. Gun pops up, and Gunko Emu fires it, and it's just like, it would be intolerable to leave this matter unsettled. And just fires into Broggy's, it's his left wrist is essentially where it fires into. And it's like, now accept my ungodly power. And it's, firing through, and it like, just like gets rid of part of Broggy's wrist, which is just okay. So this Gunko pulling out giant gun just kind of gave off major Sarah's Victoria vibes from Helsing. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Gave off some serious vibes there. So that's fun. And we see like one of the other giants that's part of the crew is just like, the captain's arm, because he's freaking out about what's going on. And Broggy's hand just falls to the ground. And they're like, wait, Chief, it can't be. The Chief is tough as nails. And I'm like, he is, but he's been fighting one guy for the past 100 years. And last time I checked, Dory didn't have demonic powers. Although that's going to change very shortly. And one of the other giants is like, I won't forgive that woman. And Gunko Imu is like summoning up another, abyss type, the ritual star pentagram thing. You shall cast aside thy lifespan for a body unyielding to death. Sorry if I'm stuffed up. Under Mu's dominion, thou shalt be granted unprecedented strength. No longer shalt thou be bound by reason nor by common sense. Becoming a demon is truly the pinnacle of existence. And then underneath Bragi appears, the abyss mark, the giant pentagram. And the thing that pops up, it's a Quirrell demonic contract. And one of the original translations I saw of this was referencing that this might be a reference to like a sci-fi novel from like, I think it was the 1970s by, who was it by? I had to look this up and I forgot it. By A.E. Van Gogh, called Black Destroyer, was, I believe, what it was referencing. And it's like this giant demonic looking alien thing that shows up that some people, the alien kind of, the movie's Alien, Sigourney Weaver and everything, claim to kind of have taken some of their ideas from, or kind of based off of that story. Sci-fi story there. And that might be kind of what they're referencing here, because like I think a Quirrell, something like that, is a reference to like the creature that's in that book. From what I saw, from the bit of information that I saw. So we see some of the other giants and they're like, a demon, what is she trying to do now? And Bragi just literally gets sucked into the ground of like this pentagram thing. And he's just like, I'm shrinking. And he's falling into the ground. And Imu's hand just kind of goes like, Demoni Reversi. And like the translation essentially for the way that it is would be spelled out in kanji is like Black Dominion Reversion. So this is essentially forcing Imu's power into Bragi, and is essentially kind of, we're going to see this, is like forcibly just messing with Bragi, forcibly taking over Bragi, because we see in the next couple of panels that like Bragi is like stuck partway into this portal into like the abyss symbol, and then the symbol literally pops up out of the ground and like spins and like flips him over, so he's like upside down with his feet in the air as it's like affecting him, and it's like it's literally like reversing him. It's like reversing his ethics, reversing his morals, reversing all of that, forcibly doing it. And the giants are like, boss, and he's like, wait, and he's like just getting flipped over, and then like when he climbs up out of the portal, he out of the symbol, he is now demonized. He has like these huge fangs, and his wrist is still not there. Like it's like part of his arm is like missing, and his axe got bigger, and Bragi himself got bigger. He's like, I think they say he's supposed to be like the size of Oars at this point in time, which is giving you a pretty good size of what he looks like. Plus now he's got bat wings coming out of his back, so that's just another callback to like Night on Bald Mountain set up there, or the creature from the story that I just mentioned. And it's this like forced demonic possession. And the thing that's going to be happening throughout the course of this chapter, for what we're going to see, for like what Imu's powers are doing, was giving me major Black Clover vibes, which is why I pulled out Noelle, and why I brought Asta out. Although, to be fair, Asta's, demonic possession is like willing, because it's, him and Lich, or not Lich, him and his brother, who I'm completely blanking on right now, sorry, Libre, that theirs is like a willing contract. And then you have like the Zoigret siblings that have like willing contracts with their demons, and then you have with like their devils, and then you have like some of the other ones who have like willing contracts with like their own devils. And then you have the paladins, that are these humans, dead humans usually, who have been like forcibly combined with a devil, and by Lucius, by Lucius, and they are, basically brainwashed. They are essentially like forced into like serving him, this demonic possession, through that way, like what happened with, the sister, and, with, Ossier, and with a bunch of the other ones that we know would never try to actually attack their loved ones if they were in their right mind. So we're seeing some of that is essentially the way that I am, viewing what is going on here. That very similar type of demonic possession is being done here, where it's like they are not willingly comless. Because, like, Bragi would not willingly want to become this creature. He is not... This is something that was forced onto him against his will. And, like, we know Bragi. Like, we saw him all the way back on Little Garden. We've seen him through all of that. We've seen him, during, like, the other parts that we've seen here for Elbaph and everything. And anything like this is something that Bragi would not want. Nor something Dory would want. And, like, these giants are just trying to protect their homes, but Emu is now just like, I'm just going to force you into this contract. There, now you're mine. Is essentially what's going on. And the other giants, that are now much smaller in comparison to Bragi, are like, he really turned into a demon. He's even bigger now. What happened to Captain Bragi? And they're just like, his face is scary. Give back the chief. Chief Bragi would never turn on his comrades. Again, this is something that, like, we as the readers and the watchers, once this is animated. By the way, this part's gonna freak my nephew out. He's, I believe, currently watching for update on where my nephew is with going through One Piece. I believe he is currently in a bunch of the post-Alabasta filler is, I think, where he currently is, if I'm remembering correctly from our previous conversation, from one of our recent conversations. But we just see, like, this demonic look on Bragi's face, and he just, like, swings his axe and just, like, sends a bunch of them flying, and he's like, a warrior's pride, I feel like I can do anything, this is exhilarating. So he is being controlled and, manipulated by this, like, huge amount of power rushing through him. And I would point this to, we see, as I mentioned, this is very similar to the Paladins, as in Black Clover, or if you're familiar with Sailor Moon, this is very similar to when various characters throughout the story have been, like, forcibly manipulated to the bad side by just overloading them with, like, bad memories and evil negative energy that eventually makes it so they get, taken over. And then eventually they are able to be, like, purified and they'll be okay. But I don't know what's going to be needed to purify Bragi. I don't know. I was trying to think of something that was like, can we get Sailor Moon to bring in, the Imperium Silver Crystal? Would that be something that would actually cause damage to Emu? Maybe that's a video I need to make at some point in time, is once we get more information on what Emu's powers can do. It's just like, Emu versus Sailor Moon. Who is stronger? That'd be interesting. That'd be fun. But, Bragi is just, throwing away, like, his warrior ethics and everything else like that he's, like, had for hundreds of years. And everything for, all of that. Complete antithesis to his character. And it's just like, he took out Boss he took out Boss Dory. And we look over and we see that Dory has also been, corrupted into this. So it's like, let's go kill Jarl. Come on, you bastards. And he now has like a trident that I think is probably like has his sword as part of it. And, and like we see that we're going to see this, that several of the other giants are also being put into the same type of demonic possession. So it's mainly Dory and Bragi, but there's a few others that get like stuck in the middle, and they're like, hold on, what are you saying, Chief Dory? And I was like, you can't take something like that back. So it's like, we've got to stop these two. And it's just like, but what about rescuing the children? And it's just like, that's completely gone out of Dory and Bragi's minds. Their now intention is to go to try and kill Jarl and then proclaim themselves the Kings of Elbaph. And like, yeah, several of the other, like 3 or 4 of the other giants are being sucked into these similar contracts as well. And, getting flipped and shifted and everything else like that into the same demonic contracts. And they're like, is it because they were standing between the two of them? Like, Emu essentially like took the gun and like fired at Bragi, and then was like going to fire at Dory and just like hit several of the other ones in the process. So it's just like an area of effect that's like all of them are being, trapped inside of these demonic contracts that they are, not willingly going into. Stuff about, Demon Slayer could get brought up in here as well, or stuff about Jujutsu Kaisen could get brought up in here as well for some of those demonic contracts that get brought up. So, and we just, see they're just like, maybe, in any case, we gotta go. And they're just like trying to run. And now we see that Emu has also seems to have affected some of the nightmare monsters, the MMAs, because we get like the last final page, double page spread of the chapter. And what we have is, the top part of the panel of the page is very reminiscent of when like the monsters first showed up. And, like, we still see, like, the giant dragon in the background that's either Needhog or something like that. We see, like, the Stormcloud. We see, like, one of the Fenrirs. And we see, like, the demonic mother there as well, who now has demon wings and fangs. And a bunch of these things seem to have been demonized with, like, bigger, sharper fangs. And then we see, like, Dory and Bragi center. They have, spiky shields. They're trident and axe. And the other, like, 4 giants who got trapped into these demonic contracts by Emu and Gunko's body. And they are just, huge. They were, like, towering above the trees now. And we see the other giants are running away from them. And it's just like, this is the true power of Elbaph. This is not without merit. It is not without merit. And we see Emu. Gunko Emu. It's like, this nation shall not be laid to waste. It is to be ruled. And we see, Summers and Kieringham. And then we see, like, close-ups of, like, Dory and Bragi's faces. And, like, their eyes are just, like, overloaded and, like, very much clearly, like, possessed. And lots of different stories have dealt with, like, possession of varied kinds. I mean, like, Black Clover just doing it with the demonic possessions for that type of thing is one thing. This is kind of happening here. Sailor Moon has done it a few different ways. There's other, I was trying to think if Disney's really done demonic possession, and I'm like, not really. So probably not. Marvel and DC have done demonic possessions to varying degrees, so there's nothing new there. But, and Emu continues, and it's just like, let us bear witness to how they survive in the crucible of war. And we cut back to the last panels are in the Western Village, and the other giants are there, and they're trying to get Jarl to run. It's just like, Lord Jarl, you have to run away. Chief Dory and Bragi are acting strange, and they're like, run away. And he's like, warriors do not know the meaning of the word run. And we just get like this great close-up of him, dagger still sticking in his head, And that's the end of it. There's not supposed to be a break next week, so we'll see how that goes. Um, uh, did I hit everything I wanted to hit? I'm kind of hoping. I mean, we keep saying that like Luffy and the others from the underworld are going to show back up, and it's just like, well, they still can. It's not like there's like a barrier preventing them from getting up there. It's just how this stuff is happening in comparison to what's going on down there, and all of that stuff. Then like Chopper went after Scopper, so Chopper can hopefully get some information from Scopper, plus give him first aid while he's doing it. But Jarl here, it's like, this has now been 63 years since what happened with Big Mom. And he has seen his country, his home, gone through so much shit over this whole time frame. All of this stuff, all of this bad stuff that gets blamed on Loki, it's like whether or not it truly is Loki's fault or not, it still happened to the country in some shape or form. It's still all of these bad omens and natural disasters, different things like that have happened. Now there's this moment here, and like King Harald being killed by Loki, like all this other stuff that's happened with that. And then they have, this incident that is happening now, and then all of even going back to like with Big Mom, when Jarl was killed, when his best friend was killed by a small child. Well, small child is a relevant answer when it comes to Big Mom, but like by a child, by like a 5-year-old. And, he couldn't bring himself to defend his country then because of what Mother Carmel did with like stepping up and like defending Lin. It's like, she's just a child and she went crazy from her hunger pangs. It's, we'll leave and everything else like that. And now he's like, I'm not running. That's completely against the warrior code of ethics to run at this point in time. I'm not going to run. And essentially what Emu is hoping will happen here is, Dory and Bragi as these new demonic forms that are now, being possessed and manipulated by Emu will go kill Jarl, and then they will be able to proclaim themselves as the new Kings of Elbaph, and then be able to forcibly, like, make it that they now serve the world government. Particularly if you cause enough damage to the island, so that way the giants will have no choice. Plus, you have, like, their 2 greatest warriors and a bunch of their other warriors, and they still technically have, like, the children as hostages because, like, the thorns that are still around them. So until those are taken care of, there's not much else that could be done for the kids. So there's all of that. I was trying to think if there would be, like, a way around, like, getting the thorns off of the kids. And I'm like, and I'm sure someone's thought of this as, like, well, if there's someone who, like, hates the kids, although why they would have someone who hates the kids be willing to help the kids is a bit beyond me, but like someone who hates the kids, would they be able to go up and touch the children and not be affected by it? Or someone who has no emotional connection whatsoever to these kids, would they still be affected by the thorns? And I'm like, possibly, just because they are still physically there, and it's just like, if you're willing to try to save the kids, even if you hate them, then there's like something there, some bit of compassion there. In that regard. So there's like something there. But yeah, I was like reading through this chapter, and I'm like, this is giving off major like Black Clover vibes, with like demonic possession and everything else like that. So I'm like, did Oda take some notes from Tabata and be like, I have an idea. Can I borrow some of your demon designs? Go for it. Okay, here we go. And like, yeah, they are giving off like the wings that like all of them have, like the bat type wings that they are giving off. It gives off like Night on Bald Mountain vibes. With why the frick I can't remember the demon's name. my Disney knowledge is failing me at the moment, which is sad because yesterday I was making the joke to my mom because for some reason while we were in the car, oh yeah, my mom had like been fixing her hair in the mirror, and I'm like, I haven't seen this much love in a room since Narcissus discovered himself. And she's like, what? And I go, Narcissus. He fell in love with his own reflection in a pond because it was so beautiful, and he wasted away in front of it. There's more to the story, but essentially that's what happens. And I was like, it's where we get the word narcissist from, and narcissistic, as in self-obsessed. And she's like, oh. And I go, you want to know a really good way to find out if I'm really sick? Ask me about Greek mythology, and if I can't get it correct about basic Greek mythology, then I am sick. That could also head off toward One Piece as well, and Disney. It's like, if she can't get that right, her head really is kind of scrambled. And I'm like, yeah. But that's what we have here. I thank you very much for watching. I apologize if I'm not quite as peppy as I usually am for these, but I've been sleeping a lot the past several days just because of how tired I have been from like my body trying to fight off the sinus infection and everything. So hopefully next week I will be back up to par. I hope so, because I hate being sick, because I feel useless, and anyone in my family who knows me knows that I hate feeling useless. I hate it when I'm useless. I hate it when I'm sick. I hate it when I can't do anything. I hate it when I barely am able to like walk up and down the stairs and then just like have to lay on the couch for the next 3 hours because I'm so tired. I hate that. So this is the most energy I've had this week. So I'm using it for this and some other stuff. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.